Hello, my name is Maciej Zakar. I'm a Chief Information Security Officer for Content.ai. And today we are here to talk about AI integration and development in a secure development lifecycle. And we'll be kind of looking at the best practices and how to do that efficiently. Now, just a tiny bit about my company. So we are a Content.ai, which is headless CMS vendor in a space of content management. And what we essentially do is we help content creators and marketers create and manage their content in an efficient way. And we are heavily utilizing AI capabilities. So we are the industry's first CMS with the native AI capabilities integrated in the product. And what our product is essentially software as a service platform that enables content creators and content managers to create and manage the life cycle of the content in one place, which then gets distributed to whatever platform, whether it's IoT device, website, or whatever else. Now, that context is going to be important when I'll be talking a little bit later about responsible AI and secure AI development, where I'll be using a lot of examples of how we actually approach the issue. So without further hesitation, let's just jump into it. What we will cover today is some sort of motivation in a very beginning. We'll look at the AI landscape and why this actually is important. We'll look at standards and frameworks, which are already in place and you can start utilizing today, as well as toolkit. And then we'll take a look on how actually all these topics, security and privacy and responsible AI, can blend into software development lifecycle, no matter the methodology. And then we'll look a little bit about communication, and I'll be also sharing lots of resources on the way, so that you can continue using those in your own development. All right. So why this actually matters, right? So in our field of content management and especially in the software as a service world, what we see is that marketing managers, creators, and all that space is very far in terms of implementation and utilization of generative AI. So we see that 76% of content creators leverage generative AI as of now. And we hear that in a couple of years, that's actually going to reach close to 100%, because this is one of the first areas that are heavily influenced and can be heavily kind of utilizing generative AI to enable higher efficiency and obviously higher content throughput. So we also see that the AI market is growing rapidly. We see quite impressive numbers until 2030. And what is quite evident in our space is that mostly ourselves and most of our enterprise competitors are already either implementing or planning to implement AI capabilities in their portfolio. And what we also see in our customer base is that even risk-averse organizations are reaching out to us and exploring how can they actually be utilizing AI capability in their marketing and content management efforts. So it is here, and I believe that we are one of the industries where we see that rapid adoption and a lot of interest from all parties involved. Now, looking at challenges, so to say, how to do it properly. We have a couple of different areas, right? So traditionally, we would be looking at security, but kind of the new issues that emerge are, protection of training data, user input, and what happens also with the model output. Obviously, some of the applications would have safety implications. In terms of privacy, we would be looking at what happens with the personal data or personally identifiable information when it goes to the system and when it goes out of the system. And many organizations are looking at opting out from using their data to actually enrich the model in terms of model training. We also see performance and reliability challenges where identification and reduction of hallucinations. It's something that actually is a lot related to quality, but at the same time, it can create also like security issues or like issues that are related to the actual application and what happens, right? So if some data is generated and then used, we need to be pretty sure that it's actually genuine or valid or based on some facts. And that goes along with the reliability of the output. And the field that is relatively, let's say, new in terms of AI applications is that responsible operation and use, especially prevention from like misusing the model, misusing the application. Like, so in our space, there would be, for example, deepfakes, a big concern about them, reduction of bias, obviously, and then, of course, like appropriateness of the content that is generated so that that is accepted by the target user, target customer. Luckily, there is already a lot being done, even though in such a short time periods that can be actually utilized for establishing secure or software development lifecycle that actually kind of focuses and covers security, privacy, and the areas of responsible AI and also the model performance. One of the frameworks that I wanted to mention today is a framework called capAI, which was developed by researchers from University of Oxford and Bologna, and it was back in mid 2022 when the EU AI Act was not yet prepared, but this is something that goes along with kind of the line of thinking that the Act was being prepared with, meaning kind of the risk-based approach and governance framework over the AI implementation and integration. And there is a lot of great value that can be taken from the framework, even though, as you can see on the figure, it looks a little bit like a waterfall model. You can absolutely take bits and pieces and implement them into any framework that you're using for development or integration lifecycle. And it really addresses several areas that are quite comprehensive. So through design, development, evaluation, which would mean like testing and verification throughout the operation to retirement of the application itself. Now, depending on the criticality or the risk associated with the application, you may have some additional requirements or recommendations in forms of questions actually that are presented. And I think what is a relatively interesting idea and model here with the capAI is that we have the notion of actors there, recognizing that it's not just solely, that we essentially need team of people actually looking into different aspects of the implementation, right? So we would have, like top manager, product owner, project manager, data scientist, and various other stakeholders that need to be actually aware and involved in all those areas. I would like to call out, like for all the people that would be interested to refer to some of our resources that we've prepared on this topic, because we have implemented the framework and there are some, I would say, nice examples where you can probably take inspiration from. And one of the very nice things that the capAI introduces, and it's quite usable in terms of transparency, is the external scorecards that you can utilize. That essentially covers purpose of the system, the values that have been considered during the application development. And then also it discusses what happens with the data, like what data kind of, have been used or what happens with the data that you actually put into the system. And of course, it discusses the governance framework over the responsible AI development. And this is something that is then transparently placed in front of the user that can decide whether this is an application that they want to, put their data in, essentially. Now, another important framework worth mentioning today is the NIST AI Risk Management Framework, which is a little bit newer date. I would say it was released in January 2023. It has 4 core areas: govern, measure, and manage, and it brings that again, like the risk management, and those topics go very very oftenly together. Also, the kind of the same line of thinking goes into the implementation according to the capAI. And of course, when you take a look on the EU AI Act, you would recognize a lot of mentions about like secure, like risk-based approach. So this is all that kind of is becoming best practice and is becoming the standard for most of those frameworks. And this framework is particularly good in terms of controls that it brings. And what we really found useful is to recognize that those controls have also shared responsibility model to some extent. Like you can, of course, take a lot of controls and implement them yourself, but at the same time, there needs to be a user of that service, of that product that is utilizing AI functionality that actually implements or recognizes that there is a need for additional input from there. And ideally, if those two things go in concert, so like the provider would be kind of following the same framework or similar framework, implementing similar controls that the customer. Take an example of the govern category. Like for example, for the processes in place or policies, and procedures that need to be in place for AI governance. Those would be, both covered by the provider, and then of course customer can take additional precautions as well. So those two frameworks have been particularly useful in terms of thinking about the whole governance process over the software development lifecycle, let's say. And there are also quite a few tools that have been developed by various organizations. So first of them, I just wanted to take an example of the HAX or Human AI Experience toolkit and playbook that is part of it, which was developed by Microsoft and other. And these are basically tools and guidelines for responsible AI implementation, recognizing that the process itself encompasses like lots of stakeholders and lots of different areas, lots of different perspectives, how to look at AI implementation, and it brings together quite a few tools that can help along the process. So one of the examples I've just taken is the HAX playbook that enables you to actually look at the AI features that are being developed, and then brings along scenarios that should be tested or verified for the AI system to kind of consider all those aspects of like secure and responsible AI, so to say. Now, it is very important to mention that threat modeling is big part of like secure by design or enabling security in software development. But there are certain specifics that AI brings together. Obviously, there are like new techniques and new threat areas or like, let's say, threat vectors that should be considered when doing the threat modeling on the system itself. And obviously, there are like way more resources that can be right now already taken, whether from IDER or OWASP, that are a great resource when thinking about actual vulnerabilities and threat vectors and how to protect your application from them. And there is also a range of resources already available for AI security testing, especially penetration testing, red teaming. And I think it's important to recognize that it's becoming a little bit more complex topic. It's not just kind of trying to break the system itself, but some of the motivation that the attackers can have would be to provide, like, produce biased content, for example, or exfiltrate some training data, etc. So the again, like, so the aim would be a little bit different. So the tools need to recognize that as well. And I would say that there are quite a few tools also that can already be taken and used for penetration testing, for security testing in general, and or for thinking about various threats that that can be relevant for the for the system itself. One of those that I just took an example of is Azure Counterfeit, that was again, like, developed by Microsoft and other, and it's one of the tools that can actually help you test test AI model, whether it's local or just, you know, connecting to an API. There is different frameworks and different attacks that can be utilized against various systems. So yeah, this is just a kind of sample application and sample, yeah, you know, working with the tool, where you can see that some of the the attacks are being exploited and tested for the system. Now, where it all comes together is some sort of, you know, software development lifecycle process. And as already mentioned, there is a there are various, you know, frameworks and methodologies that you can use in your software development. But so I took kind of generic parts of it, but whether you integrate that in agile or waterfall model, there are kind of the new considerations that you should be thinking about, are presented on the slide. And looking at the requirements to start with, obviously the threat modeling has new challenges and new vectors to target. Compliance review will probably target slightly different regulations or new regulations, such as EU AI Act. Security, privacy, responsible AI requirements, those come all together. Again, like, a little bit slightly different goals, but all of those need to, again, like, work in concert in order for the AI model to be trusted. And of course, we have ethical and environmental concerns. So we would like to probably take a little while to think about those in when we actually define requirements and what we want to achieve. Now, designing the architecture, that's where we probably need to think about the security of the entire application itself, but in terms of also risk mitigation and controls to address the risks, but also the way we actually approach the development and how we actually ensure that multi-stakeholder collaboration, because, as mentioned, like, there are different goals and different people with different expertise that can actually bring new perspectives. So that expert knowledge transfer also needs to happen throughout the process, especially for development, so they actually do understand what are the main concerns from different areas, whether it's, you know, producing unbiased content for responsible, you know, from the side of responsible AI, or securing user input from the side of security, making sure to recognize and protect personally identifiable information from the privacy perspective. So all those considerations need to come together, and this is, I would say, a big part of what needs to happen. Then in the implementation stage, we would probably want to take a while to think about what data will be used for training and how they would be protected, as this is one of the main assets that actually requires or needs some consideration in the stage. The risk mitigation, implementing the actual control or guardrails, or, you know, whatever is there in place. is going to happen here at this stage. It's good to already have some sort of preliminary testing and code reviews as for any other software development project, but here I just wanted to mention that explicitly because it's also something that worked for us quite well, to have that quick feedback and understanding like whether what we actually produce is gonna make sense. And then for further verification, we can take a look on the dynamic testing, for example, using the tools that I talked about earlier. Penetration testing and red teaming, again, with its own specifics. Of course, security, privacy, responsible AI review, like what actually happened, like what did we implement and how that covers the requirements. And once we deploy, here I think that one of the things that need to be considered a lot, with a lot of accent, I would say, in the stage, is the transparent documentation, and not just about the functionality itself in terms of like a change log, but also about limitations of the systems, instructions, if any, risks, data quality issues, and some of these things can be considered given, but they're actually not. I will talk about that a little bit on the next slide. But for example, when you're using a model that has some guardrails implemented, you may want to give instructions to the users, like how to actually use it, like what are the boundaries, what kind of terms of service are there. So this is something that again has an additional accent in this stage and should be taken transparently. In terms of operations, of course, it's good to have some decommissioning strategy. And on the long run, it's great to actually take a look on that model performance and monitor data drift and model decay in time, and have a process also to address any complaints or feedback, as this is also a large part of because as the field is so rapidly evolving and the opinions of expert community are as well, we want to make sure that we have a kind of feedback loop with users and with the community itself, to make sure that our model has been or our application has been developed in in a responsible and secure manner. And of course, audits and reviews are always something that happens on the gradual or regular basis as a best practice. Now, sharing some of the lessons learned that we've had when we approached the topic and wanted to target all those different considerations in different areas. One of the things that we learned very fast is that the change is constant, and especially when it comes to models, their performance, quality, but also pricing, this is something that changes all the time, and the applications or anything that you base on that need to be ready to be rapidly adapted to the actual situation of the current state of the art. So you would probably exchange the model for the one with better performance or better quality of output, but it also brings other challenges in terms of, it may be performance, it may be also dependencies. So it needs to be really considered as well. Of course, it is easier when the basics are there. That was kind of something that I also wanted to stress before, because having the actual software development lifecycle that is formalized and well adapted, and consider security by design and privacy by design, these are great places to start. Like if you have that, you already have your control framework in place, and this is kind of just implementing new controls, but you're already basing you're basing it on top of something that already exists and can be therefore way easier or faster, with less friction. Then the models can be dramatically different. This is where we also had that learning moment where, for example, comparing the translating models that may just plainly output fake, root content because it just plainly translates and it's fast because it doesn't have any guardrail. Basically, that needs to be definitely considered depending on the application. So if you are utilizing different models in different applications, it might be worthwhile to actually take a look on how those models actually work and what do they provide out of the box. And what it relates with is the speed or the performance. And of course, everything we do in security brings a little bit of overhead. So of course, it can slow down the performance. So this is something that needs to be considered as well, and should be part of that part of the analysis and consideration when exchanging models or building something new on top of something existing. And what I wanted to stress as kind of the conclusion is that communication is essential and of great importance both to external and internal stakeholders. And that's for many reasons. One of the reasons is that it helps to bring trust and consideration, but also helps to elevate the community as well. Because, when we all communicate about the best practices and how we all should be building our AI applications and AI or integrating AI into our portfolio, and how to do it in a responsible and secure way. This is something where the users will start asking questions as well, and will start kind of preferring those providers or like pushing the industry into doing a little bit better job as a baseline. So I would say that this is something that is very important, and I would stress that that we all kind of take that exercise and communicate about the best practices of secure and responsible AI development. Yeah, these are just some of the examples that we, for example, produced in our blog or in other media. So just to sum it up, we can start already now with best practices from various governance frameworks on responsible and secure AI development. And the key to bringing resilience to our AI applications is really just kind of following that and utilizing the tools that are already out there and they're rapidly evolving. And of course, that it's important to recognize that in the communication, both internal and external, would be a key to consider when building our application. So yeah, thank you very much for listening, and